Right. Well, George Lucas made a very rare appearance at Cannes Film Festival and did a very rare thing with an interview, which has now obviously been loads of people have been quoting stuff. It's quite interesting. So there's a few things. George Lucas blasts Disney for not understanding Star Wars and the Force. George Lucas bashes girl boss heroes. And George Lucas, rips Hollywood for lack of original thinking. Now, I do want to just say, though, it's all well and good saying all of this stuff, but the wanker, and he's a wanker, did back Bob Iger in the Nelson Peltz proxy war. He's a
There's some
hypocrite.
other wankery things he said in this interview too. So for all the good things he said, said just as many bad things.
Yeah, he's a really big hypocrite. Literally, 2 months ago, he was backing the biggest sequel whore of all time, Bob Iger. The biggest remake whore of all time, Bob Iger. And he's going out of his way to be like, oh well, Hollywood, they just doing sequels and remakes all the time. What? Come on. So let's take a look at this. Can George Lucas rips Hollywood for lack of original thinking? So, excuse me, clear my throat. So he says, what happens now and it happens in streaming, probably more than features, but features, it's the same thing. Nobody knows what to do. The stories they're telling are just old movies. Let's do a sequel. Let's do another version of this movie. And it's not just in movies, but in almost everything. There's almost no original thinking. Sorry, what? Sorry, didn't you back Bob Iger, mate? No? You did, didn't you? And he says this, I fear that the film industry has become more of a matter of people being hired to meet their debt obligations because the studios are in great, great debt. Oh, that's Coppola, sorry. For God's sake. They've thrown it in with that as well. I mean, look,
He's not wrong, but you're not wrong
no,
either.
he's not
So,
wrong.
yeah.
He's not wrong, but it annoys me because you backed the biggest sequel whore of all time.
Well,
And
he
remake
also
whore.
do they have the
What?
bit in here where he talks about Star Wars though?
Oh,
Because
got other ones here.
yeah, I was gonna say because he does get to that part, right? Like, so even though he's saying that, I'll give him credit that he does kind of throw Disney under the bus for what they've done to Star Wars. Because I'll
It's
give
like
him that.
bipolar.
No matter how I feel about the prequels, that is one thing he does say is like I always tried to bring something new to the table. Right? Like, regardless of what I felt about the films, I can't argue that point. There is something new and fresh in each one of the movies that isn't exactly like the last one. Something he tried that was different. It wasn't a retread, kind of like The Force Awakens was of, A New Hope, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he says this. So he says, I was the only one who really knew what Star Wars was, who actually knew this world because there's a lot to it. The Force, for example, nobody understood the Force. And I believe him. I do believe him. When they started other ones after I sold the company, a lot of the ideas that were in it, in the original, sort of got lost. And that's the way it is. You give it up, you give it up.
Yeah.
But you backed Bob Iger. So
Yeah.
what are you doing?
Oh.
And then bashes girl boss heroes. You can't just put a woman in pants and expect her to be a hero. So it says this, who do you think the heroes are in these stories? What do you think Princess Leia was? She's the head of the rebellion. She's the one that's taken this young kid who doesn't know anything, and this boisterous, I know everything guy who can't do anything and trying to save the rebellion with these clowns. And it's the same thing with Queen Amidala. You can't just put a woman in pants and expect her to be a hero. They can wear dresses, they can wear whatever they want. It's their brains and their ability to think and plan and be logistical. That's what the hero is. What's this? Not only did Lucas address criticism of his female characters, he also fired back at people unhappy that his Star Wars films did not have enough diversity based on character skin color. He says they would say it's all white men.
Star
Most
Wars
of the people are
white.
aliens. The idea is you're supposed to accept people for what they are, whether they're big and furry or whether they're green or whatever. The idea is all people are equal. What did he also say? That was the way of saying. Oh, and he also says that the robots were the only ones being discriminated against. I mean, that's wrong. That's wrong. Anakin's mother was literally a slave.
A slave seemed like she could leave at any time, but yes.
Well, she couldn't though, could she? Oh, I don't know, but
Iwata was a horrible slave driver, I'll be honest with you.
yeah. But there you go. I mean, that's there's not really much else to this, unless there's anything else anyone else sort of picked out with this. But what do you guys think of these comments? It just annoys me that he's such a hypocrite.
Oh god, yeah, because he said more things about the special edition that really pisses me off.
Oh, talking about how
and then he was bragging
one.
about and then he's bragging about being on the film conservation board, which frankly, I'll be honest with you, the couple movies those guys have preserved so far, they have done a horrible job with.
Yeah.
In fact, like we just got Once Upon a Time in the West this last couple weeks here, and it looks like crap. Because George Lucas is one of those guys who loves his DNR and his AI bullshit. And that's the thing. And this is what I was kind of talking about with George Miller earlier and some of these other guys. Look, I love these guys to no end. They created the original stuff. But at some point, they do got to kind of let go. And sometimes these things need to be saved from their own creators. Right? Like, I'm not saying that Disney did better with Star Wars than George did, but even most of us would have agreed back in the prequel days that he needed somebody to help him. He needed something or somebody who was able to go, well, is that really what you should do, George? Do you really think that's going to work? Challenge him a little bit. And a lot of these guys, they don't have that when they get to a certain point. And George Miller's the same way. James Cameron's the same way. I mean, Peter Jackson's getting to be the same way. Sometimes these things need to be saved from their own creators, and the fans have taken charge. There's 4K scans from a release prints of the original three Star Wars movies out there that are not very hard to find. So he's not going to keep it down. All he's doing is creating more demand for the original, right? And as much shit as I give Ridley Scott, at least he has the decency to always make sure the original version or versions are along the ride with the other one. You know what I mean? Like, I got a copy of Blade Runner on the shelf that has all 4 or 5 cuts of that movie on it, right? So it's not like I got to worry about tracking down this cut or that version or waiting for someone to do a better scan of it or something like that. I mean, and the fan community is doing better work than these guys are. But that being said, he is just he the other thing is he didn't look in the best of health. I don't know if you guys saw the video or not, because the whole thing's out there. He had to be helped on stage. They had to basically help him to the chair. I didn't see him lift his left arm the whole time. The way he's talking, I feel like he's probably had either a stroke, maybe a accident. I don't know.
Yeah, makes sense.
So he's kind of, I mean, his faculties, he's still George Lucas. Look, I love George Lucas, but he's one of the most revisionist historians I've ever seen in my life. And on that note, like you said, he backed the same people that are destroying the franchise he created. So at the end of the day, the other thing that he bothered me about that he was talking about is like, well, I think I talked Marty into liking Marvel movies now, or convincing him that they're cinema. It's like, it's a motion picture. It's a moving picture. It's a movie. It's like, yeah, George, he just said that just to get you to shut the hell up. Is what he is. Because I doubt Martin Scorsese believes that the Marvels is cinema in his definition. And I get it. Yes, they're movies, but Tarantino did a better
he's talking about
explanation on that.
The literal definition of cinema, a moving picture.
Well, not just that. I think Tarantino did a better explanation when he said, I think what Marty means is he said, these kids nowadays grew up on nothing but Harry Potter and Marvel films. They wouldn't know what to do with a Taxi Driver movie, but if you put Joker in it, they'll watch it, right? Like, that's a totally different thing for them then. So that's what I think Marty is getting at, is like, these kids wouldn't know what to do with one of his films now. They'd watch it and they go, well, what the hell is this? You know? So they'd watch Taxi Driver and go, oh, it's kind of like Joker, but old.
Yeah.
Got a super chat from Depressed Canadian, says Lucas was going to make a Flash Gordon movie with Gary Kurtz. We couldn't get the rights, so he made a semi-original movie in Star Wars. He also erased Kurtz contributions to the Star Wars trilogy.
And a lot of other people's. See, and that's a lot of other thing that people are challenging him. It's like, okay, fine, George, you can have your vision with part 1, but you didn't direct 2 and 3, regardless if you owned them at the time or not.
Yeah.
And he didn't write them all either. He came up with the concepts, but there were other writers.
Yeah. Creek Indian says, "Oh my God, no, please, Disney. Now, no more Star Wars." We'll see. There's no more for now. Just George Lucas.
The other thing I think, if I remember right, correct me if I'm wrong, Culture, he said something along the lines of basically, he's moved on, he's done. So I think that put any chance of him coming on to do any projects to bed.
Yes.
I think that rumor is.
Yeah, I agree with that. Olaf has super chat $3 says, "From my perspective, it was George's wife backing Iger using George, and she's high up in JP Morgan investors, or even be on their board and they're invested in Disney." Yeah, that's very true. That is very true. Accent Seller, Lucas doesn't understand the Force either. Remember midichlorians, anyone? That was bullshit.
Exactly.
The Force through mundane cells in the body or something. Yeah, I know.
I never liked that idea.
Last but not least, Nate, please crop your avatar closer, please. No, you've got the internet. Do it yourself. Culture, what's your thoughts on all of this, dude?
I am not surprised. I'm just not surprised. George is incapable of maintaining his solid position on anything now, likely speaking to his advanced age and perhaps, as Tom suggests, some health troubles along the way. I think a lot of things that have come to light is what's happened around him. And I would say that he got hit pretty hard with the devastation that Disney did to his property. And I think he's going to be embittered by that, and it's going to come out in various ways. And this is, another thing with aging. As you get older, your filters don't show up quite the way you would like them to, and you don't have much tact left, and you certainly can't keep a linear thought. And I think that's just kind of what you got here, is him.
He's 80.
He's speaking off the cuff, and and probably he halfway wants to say everything that's on his mind, but there's just enough left in there holding him back that he didn't say, "I never should have sold this to Disney."
Did we even set up what this was all about? I don't know if we did. He's at cons, but what he's there for is he got some achievement award or whatever, lifetime achievement award.
Yeah, he got a lifetime palm to whatever it's called, palm d'or.
Yeah. So this is the kind of thing they usually do for and Francis, I think, got something too. Like they basically brought out Francis and Steven and all the guys to, the old guard, basically. Just to shuffle them off.
I think that about wraps up that topic, I think, doesn't it? Unless there's anything else you guys want to say.
Nah, I think that
no.
George is going to George.
Yeah.
He's certainly going to do that and just be a hypocrite.